Hey folks, so today I'm doing something that I've never done before. I've shied away from it for like 10 years. I'm not shied away from it, but I've not wanted to do it for over 10 years. Well, actually, the first 8 years it probably wouldn't have made sense because I didn't have a setup because I wasn't making music. I was coaching other people. But since I started making music again, I didn't want to do it because I think too much focus on the tools can send us in all kinds of unpleasant directions. You know, like the situation of having thousands upon thousands of dollars or whatever your currency is worth of gear and zero music to show for it. That is definitely a result of an inappropriate focus on the tools in the wrong way, because it certainly isn't the case that if you buy what I've got and you set it up like I've got it, should you, for some unexplainable reason, want to sound like the music that I'm making, goodness knows why you'd want to do that, that you would end up sounding the same, because it just doesn't work like that. We all use, for instance, we all use the same words, but we don't say the same things, and we don't sound the same. You won't sound the same as me, and you're probably very, in terms of what you say and how you say it. But I also know that it is useful. It is with this Zentaur thing that I'm doing, it's a different way of helping people by demonstrating what I'm doing. So when I'm running through all of this, one of the things I would really like you to pay attention to, more than the specifics, and you can ask me questions about whatever you want. We can get into the weeds if you want, about whatever you want to get into. But just please, if you can, just notice more than anything else the thinking about thinking, because what I'm using is less important than how I'm thinking about what I'm using, like the way that I came to the decision to use it in this way. And it's almost like what I'm deciding not to do right now is more important than what I am deciding to do, because I've noticed that human beings in general tend to think that they can take on way more new stuff than they actually can effectively. They think they can process a lot more information than they can. And the model that you really want to use when you're deciding on your setup or when you're building out your setup is, I can learn one new thing at a time. Okay. Now I know that's not completely true, but it's a useful kind of little rule of thumb. Yeah. So if you change something, change a very small thing. I mean, it can even be a thing about a thing. Okay, so it's not like I can only add one new bit of gear a week. That's not it at all. It's like I can only use one additional feature of this VST synth that I'm using a week. Yeah. I mean, I know that's not 100% true, but whenever you're in any particular situation, so say you're idea generating, say you're splurging or something like that, you're just adding one thing, and then you're doing loads and loads of splurges until that thing almost, like, you'll notice that you're no longer thinking about it, you're just doing it, right? That means that thing that you are doing is starting to get into muscle memory. Now, one of the dangers with that is if you're doing it badly will get into muscle memory. so you've got to watch out for that as well. Yeah. So anyway, let's get into it. But before we get into it, let me just find out in the comments, what are the biggest questions that you have about how I do things? Hey Robin, hey Ottawan, hey MR, hey Heto, hey Mike, Lai, N2. What are the biggest questions that you have about the way that I do things? Let's find out. So let's see if I can get these questions answered. I think I've got the stream set on normal latency, so it takes a little while. Robin, true to form, asking a question not about the thing that I'm asking about. So, okay. Why did I decide to release albums? I'll answer that on a different stream. I think keeping the focus and speed up. So what's the question there? Yeah, Robin, I'm not answering that question right now. We're talking about the gear and the setup. So that's more about releasing. Okay, brilliant. Max! Hello, Max. Max is one of my masterminders, now a Make Music Life Mastery member. Hi, Mike. What is the main controller of the track you are playing? Is it a sequencer or one of the instruments you use? Now, that's a good question. All right. There isn't a main one. I mean, well, actually, it depends the way that I do it. Okay, so I've done it a couple of different ways, and I can do it a few different ways in any given moment. So let's actually get into it. Hello, Rob. Let's actually get into it. Right. So let's go over to. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Which one is it? Is it this one? There we go. Okay. So. And also, Ottowan's curious about the mix. All right, we'll get into that soon, Ottowan. So, when I started doing this, for the first, I don't know, 2.5 months, I didn't really use any other sequencers at all, apart from the ones in the Subharmonicon and the DFAM. And the way I had it set up, shall I do it now? I'll actually do it now. I'll actually show you. All right. So the way I had it set up was that, I mean, I suppose arguably this over here right now is the main thing. This is an ERM multi-clock. So it's a sync box, right? And it's got a setting on it. Because you can, the source of the clock, this can either be the source, so this can be, what's it called? It can be internal, right? It's the wrong way around, so I can't remember how to do it now. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so it can be, the source of the clock can be internal, so that this can actually drive the whole setup, right? And I still have it like that, actually, so that's how it's set up, yeah? So when I first did it, this over here, through audio, it seems to be a bit of hum on my on my setup for the moment. I have to check that out. Anyway, so this lead out here goes into the clock in hole here. Okay, so that when I press play, and by the way, the thing that I've got playing is it's not anything. It's just yeah, ignore it. It was just a kind of blank thing, yeah. All right, okay. So hang on. So let's just remove that for now because that's the DFAM. So the ERM is now driving the Subharmonicon, right? Come on, let's go. Where are you? Right. Just turn off the effects for now. Hang on a minute. Okay. So as you can see, that's actually now playing the Subharmonicon, right? And I can speed up I can speed it up using this knob and slow it down that way. When I first started, I didn't actually have this synced at all. Oh, I've lost the lead. I'll have to get that in a second. And I was using so I've just pulled out the clock knob. I'm having to switch cameras all the time. So I pulled out the clock, lead, and I was... Yeah, and I could still do it that way, to be honest. Stop. Right. I could still do it that way, and I'm considering doing it. But again, I'm just thinking about the limited amount of mental processing that I have. Okay. And so... And I mean, this is something that we're not exactly struggling with. This is something that I've been thinking about recently, because eventually, and what you always want to be thinking about when you're setting up anything, and it doesn't matter if you've got your DAWless or you've got a DAW or anything. When you're setting up anything, you don't want to be thinking about, well, you do want to be thinking, so you do want to be thinking about where you're going, where you want to end up, but you don't want to be ending up there until you're able to end up there. It's very similar. It's a very similar kind of thing to that thing where people think about, oh my God, my music sounds terrible. I'm not at the top of the mountain. Yeah. So they don't take one step. So you've got to think about the end result that you would like. And what's even more confusing about this is that the end result that you would like, often you don't know what that is because you don't know what's possible because you haven't done it. Yeah. So you don't know how all of these things could interact, because there's infinite ways that I could set this up. Yeah. But my end result, and eventually is the word that you want to use all the time. Eventually, what I want to be able to do is not, oh, I've had this thought about what I want to do, I'm going to do it immediately. You can't do that. That's why you just end up going around in circles if you do. Yeah. Eventually, what I'd like to be able to do is, in the middle of a performance, be able to set it up in these different ways. Because being able to have these machines drive the whole thing, there is something very different about it. I can't really describe what it is. I mean, for one thing, they go much faster and much slower. Yeah. But at this point, to save overwhelm, I've got the multi-clock driving it. So I'm going to press play on the multi-clock. It's going at 73 right now. It is going to play it. There we go. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Okay. Then what I pulled out just before was not that one. Where is it? Where are you? Here we are. So that's the clock in, and then out of the Subharmonicon, I've got this clock out going into advanced clock on the DFAM. Now, so the DFAM you can see is going because I've got the run button on. So if I press that, yeah. So at the moment, without that plugged in, the DFAM is running on its own. Hello, where are you? Oh, it's here. Promise, it's running on its own. What's going on? Why is that not coming through? Strange. It's very odd. Hang on a minute. It was working a minute ago. This is always the way. Hang on a minute. Let me 2 secs. Now I'll just open up this screen so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just checking. This is the non-DAW that I've got. So that's me talking. So why is the DFAM not coming through? Up. Oh, I know. Hang on. Is it something to do with this? No. Huh. Let's see what happens if I actually plug in the thing I was going to plug in. Maybe that will work. Where's it gone? Advanced clock. Clock out. Yeah. I mean, I don't see why it would work because we're not getting volume. There we go. Right, so at this point, that's very strange. Okay. Oh, I know what's happening. I know. I got you. Right. Okay, so this is the confusion. Right, yeah. What it is this. All right, I'll pull that out. I believe that should work. Trigger. Yeah, all right, so. Stop. Right. See, this is the thing. I'm in the middle of trying to figure out what method I'm using right now. And I was just in between two methods when I pulled that hole out. All right. So I've pulled everything out. Yeah. Well, not everything, but everything in the DFAM. And now the DFAM is now playing on it's running on its own. Okay. Let's turn you down. Yeah. And what's cool about... Right, so as you can see there, the DFAM goes so fast that it turns into an actual sound of its own, which would be really, really cool live. And eventually, what I'd like to be able to do is actually have the DFAM running ting, essentially. So everything clocking off the DFAM. But for various different reasons I won't go into now, I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so going back to the... there we go. So the clock from the ERM is going into this, and then the clock out of the Subharmonicon is then going into the advanced clock of the DFAM. Okay? So. And I'll get to the other questions shortly. There we go. Yeah, and I've got to press. Right. Now, obviously, I haven't set this up at all, so it's going to sound like a real mess, but it's okay. So, hang on. This is an analog. In fact, both of these. These are two sequences on here and one on here. Yeah. These are all analog sequences. So, in other words, what that means is you actually, I don't think this is 100% analog, whereas this is. Anyway, so what you've got to do is you've got to reset. You've got to reset this to the start, and you've got to reset this one to the last step in order for it to be in sync. Yeah, whenever you start, because it's an analog sequencer. Yeah, this one. I think me pressing that there means me. I don't know actually, but it may mean that this isn't 100% analog. I don't know. Anyway, so let's. It doesn't really matter, does it? Let's face it. Right, okay, let's go. So let's press play. All right, so let's just go. Yeah, okay. So now those two things are in sync, the Subharmonicon and the DFAM, and they're being told to go by the ERM multi-clock. As I said, at some point in the future, I would like to have it so that one of these two things is running the setup, and actually I'm clocking the ERM from the Subharmonicon. Yeah, but as I said, for various different reasons, I'm not going to do that right now. It's a bit too much. Yeah, at this point. Yeah, I was watching actually Colin Bender's bunch of videos about him redoing his modular setup. If you don't know who Colin Benders is, he's the most incredible modular musician. Like the music he makes is so like it's huge. Check him out. He's brilliant. He's awesome. He's just absolutely fantastic. But he's been doing this. Well, not this, but because I'm not going to go fully into the modular thing. But he's been doing modular music for 10 years, and it's literally like. It's just like, and he's resetting up his setup right now, and it's all very, very kind of in the weeds, obviously, as it would be. And he's talking about the different things and CV outputs and all that kind of stuff. But there's one particular video where he talks about his thought process and about the kind of how he's thinking about what he needs to do. Because when you've got that big kind of modular setup, it's all about cable management and, you know, kind of industrial design and things, you know, and things like that. But he's been doing this 10 years, and it's like he knows enough to be able to kind of figure this out. So you've got to start, even if you're just doing things indoors, yeah, just with soft synth, you want to start as small as possible. Yeah, I've got 3 sound making devices. I've got the three Moogs, 1 piano sound, and 1 string sound, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, if you don't count effects as sound making devices. Yeah, and that's because I know that in order to make the maximum progress, I need to do the most with the smallest amount. Yeah, I tried adding a drum machine at one point. I tried adding a looper at one point. It was actually a hardware looper at one point, and I tried adding that Roland over there at one point, and this Prophet down here at one point. But I removed them again because I wasn't ready. Yeah. So the reason that my music has, and I'm not saying about the objective quality, I'm talking about the relative to itself quality. The reason that my the quality of the music that I'm making has improved so much so quickly is because I'm doing so little. I'm using so little. Yeah. And except for the live stream yesterday, which was a total disaster. Anyway, that's why when you do so many, that's always going to happen. So yeah, so that's the first thing. So anyway, so coming back to this. So initially, I had it basically set up like this, and then the final thing. So that with the Mother 32, I had was, what did I have? Because I do it slightly differently now. Yes, that's right. So what I had was, I'll show you right now. I had, this is trigger out going into the gate in of the Mother 32. Because what I don't tend to use, and I will do it at some point, but just at this point, again, all about not overwhelming myself. I don't tend to use the Mother 32 sequencer. The reason I don't use the Mother 32 sequencer is because you can't see it. Yeah. Whereas these sequences you can. So when I was starting out, I was using this sequencer, these sequences, and not this one. Basically, this in this situation right now, this is telling that when to play. Okay. So let's go again. Let's see if I can make that work. Let's turn it down a bit. Press play. What are we doing? Oh, it's over here. Okay. Let's just put on. And by the way, if you've not heard my music doesn't sound like this. So let's make it go a bit faster. I'll also pull that out for now just to get rid of that, because I'll tell you about that in a second. All right, so Mother 32. So can you hear that little click? That's the Mother 32. So now what's happening is that every time that this is being triggered, it's playing this. Yeah. So you've got a kind of hat thing. Yeah. Why is that so quiet? It's because it contains. Yeah. Now it might sound like the Subharmonicon is triggering it, the hat, but it's not. Actually, what's happening is so I'll show you. Yeah. So it's actually this. You see that? Okay. So the thing is that this at the moment it's not the only thing that's going on, because it sounds better than it would if I unplugged everything. So let me just unplug everything for you. This and this. Okay. All right. So if I was just having the Mother 32 being triggered by the DFAM on its own, this is how it would sound. Oh, and if you can hear a bit of a swing, that's the ERM. So this is straight now. And the ERM's got a little knob on it. And let me move over to here. So you can swing it with a knob on it here. Yeah. So that's straight. Now the thing is, in this situation, basically you're very, very limited as to what you can do with the Mother 32, obviously. Because what I'm doing at this point is I'm just using the Mother 32 really as a hat. Which is kind of ridiculous, but also just it's cool in another way. All right. So but the trouble is with that is that there's no feel to it. Yeah, you can swing it with the ERM. Yeah. And so MR, you keep on asking me about this. Thank you very much for being so insistent on me. I've got to mix the thing, and I'm not ready yet, so it will come at some point. It's one of the streams that I did. So yeah, I'll it's coming. It'll be a while though. As I said, I'm backed up. Okay, I've got to find a way of doing it quicker. So let me just go through some of these questions to make sure that I'm just going to star some of them, and I'll just say the questions I'm going to ask. So this is the all right. So Live Society asks, how do you not let the editor in to keep going? We'll answer that. I'm interested in how I think about multi-tracking. Otto1 says, I'm curious about the mixer interface you're using. We'll answer that. Rob says, did you ever get to stop the sequence while recording, then start again? Well, you can do anything you want. Yes, is the answer to that. So I've answered that. Yes, you can do that, and I have done that. Asset says, is the Moog Trio save? No, you can't save it. And which is great. That's one of the reasons I love it so much. I'm just going through these questions. Otto1 says, I know I keep coming up with all questions, but if you had the choice of a combo of DFAM and Subharmonicon or DFAM and Mother 32, which would you suggest? I'm going to make a video about this because I know that there's the Moog Sound Studio thing. If you, it depends on the kind of musician you are. If you're somebody who really enjoys discovery, if you're on the discovery end of things and you can just let things happen and you enjoy happy accidents, then I would go for the Subharmonicon. If you get really frustrated because you want to make something specific in your head, then I would say the Mother 32 is more the thing. But I'll make a video more about that with me demonstrating it in the future. Okay. Otto1, how was your transition to DAWless and what were some of your initial challenges? All right, I'll go. Yeah, I'll talk about that. Yes, I have tried swapping them around. Okay. Okay, and I'll answer that. Is the RM just sending one clack into the DFAM? Okay. Okay, and then Max asks, I'm sure you'll cover this, but where is the audio out of all the instruments you use routed? Into the desk, then audio interface, or straight into the audio interface? I'll answer that as well. Some of these might be answered on a future stream. It looks like I might have to do a future one. What was the flashy fader box I just saw? 8 faders or so. All right, yeah, I'm sorry this is a bit all over the place, but what I'll do right now is I'm just going to tell you what all of these things are, just so that anyone who's interested we can just get that out of the way because it's very boring. But it's kind of, oh, it's the wrong way around. Is that the wrong way around? It is the wrong way around. Hang on a minute. Let's see if I can sort that out for you. Boink. There we go. All right. So ERM multi-clock. That's the clock. It's got you can send 4 clock signals. They'll all be the same tempo, but you can send that they can be different swings. They can be different offsets. Yeah. And also they can be different meters. Yeah. So you can send sort of 16ths or whatever out of these 4 things. At this point, I've got it going into 2 things, and then those 2 things sending the clock to other things. Yeah. So that's the ERM multi-clock. These are rubbish, cheap, plasticky MIDI controllers, but they're really cheap. So that's why I've got them. 2 Rolly blocks. I use this to control the volume and of my live instruments, which is 1 piano and 1 string sound. Yes, I'm just using 1 of these, and that is over on my another computer over here. So I'm actually playing the VSTs out of that through this. Yep. So in other words, the VSTs I'm playing over there, it's as if they're live instruments coming in via audio. There's no MIDI going into my actual setup. So this is coming in via audio into my audio interface. And I probably should have done this first rather than getting deep into the weeds of patching and stuff. But anyway, so this is a mix face, a Studio Logic mix face. And this is basically the mixing desk. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So this I've got set to the live instrument level coming from the computer. This is the what is that? This is the Mother 32. This is the DFAM, and this is the Subharmonicon. And 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Those are effect sends. That's how I've got it set. Okay. These 2 things here are controlling the performable effects. Yeah, these are World E Easy Control 9 controllers, if you're wondering, and they're rubbish. But they were like $60 Australian dollars each or something. So very, very, very cheap. And they've just got, a lot of knobs and faders. So yeah, this is a BeatStep Pro. We'll come to that later. Then I've got the 3 Moogs. Oh yeah, and of course this is a SL88 Grand. Yeah, and as I said, I'm using this is just a audio interface basically, and I've got a piano in there and 1 string sound in there, and it's coming in to the audio interface. My audio interface is a Apollo X6, so it's got 6 ins. So I've got 3 ins going into the. I'll show you here. Which one is it? It's this one, I believe. Yeah. So this is the console. So you can see this is just my mic here right now. Subharmonicon's coming in here. DFAM's coming in here. Mother 32's coming in here, and live instruments are coming in here. Okay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actual inputs. Yeah. So this is the live instruments coming into my audio interface from the other computer. No MIDI, just audio. Mother 32, DFAM, Subharmonicon. And I've got the Subharmonicon coming through live, this Avalon thing. I've got the Mother 30, the DFAM coming in live into this API thing. And that's weird. I thought to change this. Obviously didn't save it. And what I did do a couple of days ago, but obviously forgot to save it. I'll have to sort that out later. Is I've got this coming into an SL channel strip. And I don't think I saved the preset, which is annoying. Anyway, so So these are These are actually effects that are recorded, not effects. Plugins that are recorded. Yeah. Yeah, and then that comes into this. Now this isn't a DAW. This is Gig Performer. Eventually, I want to go. I would like to be able to go. Certainly, in terms of this end of things, I would like not to have to use this at all. But this is the other thing that I kind of wonder about with this whole DAWless, versus DAW, hardware versus software sort of thing that people have. It's almost like they decide they're going to be in one camp or the other, and then it's almost like that's like their identity. That's not how I see it at all. I mean, if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine by me. But as far as I'm concerned, hardware and software are both great, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. Hardware is absolutely great, sounds brilliant. You can actually touch it, and that has a thing, all of its own. But and also an upside of it is that it is limited. I mean, it's literally limited by physics kind of thing, the physics of space and molecules, whereas software isn't limited in the same way, which is its own problem. But for me anyway, I actually like using both, and I wouldn't even call it hybrid. I suppose it is a hybrid in a sense, but it's almost like as if there's I don't know, because there's software inside most hardware, right? And a lot of so even modules are like mini DAWs, right? So I'm like, I kind of don't get why there's this big thing about it. It's like, I'm now this, and I'm not like that. Yeah, it's almost like, what is the tool that would be, well, what is the tool that isn't going to get me overwhelmed? What's the tool that's going to get me the result that I want? Well, not the result I want, but going to kind of inspire my creativity. That's the result I want. Yeah, what can I afford? Yeah, is a huge thing as well. Yeah. What can I actually afford to buy, and what's the highest leverage thing for me to buy right now? So that's why I'm using this, because having the kind of sound that I'm getting out of all of these would cost like many thousands of dollars, tens and thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now it might not sound as good as the real thing, I don't know, but that would cost. So I'm basically, this is going in here. And then this is the Subharmonicon chain, and I won't talk about the performable effects just yet. I'll just show you. So it's going to that, and then various effects, and then a dynamic EQ, and then that. Okay. Oh, and then that, and then this Goldfoss Live. Okay. That's not including the effects. So apart from Goldfoss Live, all of these are UED plugins, and the benefit of that is that they don't take the DSP of the computer, because otherwise it would start complaining. So not including the effects. Do I call that effect? Yeah, I'm going to call that an effect. This is the DFAM chain. Dynamic EQ into Neve. Into distressor, and then that's it. And this pull tech down here is just a send, so I've got a low cut on the effects end for the DFAM, and then this is the Mother 32 chain for my extremely expensive hat. So yeah, it goes API. Studa! Dynamic EQ and LA2A. Okay. And then I've got the whole mix, and this includes effects and everything else coming through into a dynamic EQ, into Goldfoss Live, and then just a bus compressor. Okay. So, I've got the Apollo X6. All right, so that's the basic thing. Okay, so now where was I before I talked about all the various different? I think I've gone through all of the equipment that I have that I'm using. Yeah, I think I have. Right, so that's the equipment bit sorted. So now you know what I'm using. Let's now get back to the Moog stuff and how things are running. Okay, and I will come back to the questions. So. Yes, it's that the gig performer is like Logic's main stage, but it's a more what's the word? What's it called? Flexible. Yeah. So Mike asked a good question. Are you concerned with MIDI note input when splurging for future arrangements, sequencing, recording, or do you just record and move on? No, I just record and move on. So I'm practicing the piano so that I can play better. That's my way of doing things. Okay. Yes. All right. So I'm going to come back to the other questions. Just going to keep going to show you how the actual thing is set up. Okay. So where were we? Yeah. All right. So this is now we've got the Mother 32 being played by the DFAM. Or we should do anyway. There we go. Yeah. And as I said, the reason I got it set up like that was because it was too overwhelming to have it any other way, right? If I used this sequencer and all of this, yeah, this is the initial thing that I did. I was like, there's just no way I'm going to be able to actually play that live. Remember, I'm doing things live. I'm making the music live. Yeah. So I need one of these to play one of these. So just bear that in mind, right? It's like, yeah, ideally, I would like this to be playing its own thing and all be programmed nicely. Yeah, but when I'm first doing it, it's like, I'm not going to be able to do that. It's just like going to be so overwhelming. I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to get bored. And then I'm going to go and look on YouTube for another piece of gear to buy to get myself even more frustrated and even more bored. Yeah. So I'm going to make the decision that this is going to be driven by these other things. Yeah, it's really, really important to understand this about when you're building your own setup, whether it's DAWless or not. Yeah, when you get bored and disengaged, it can only be for two possible reasons. Number one, it's too hard. Number two, it's too easy. Yeah, those are the only two reasons. Yeah, you've overwhelmed yourself with too much to learn. Yeah, and when you're first starting out, it's going to be like that anyway. You've got to kind of get over the hump to a certain extent, which is why I've developed splurging and things like that to get what's one of the reasons is to get people who are early on in this process over that hump. Yeah, because you learn so much faster when you use less. Yeah, so you've either overwhelmed yourself or you're just doing the same old thing over and over again. If you're doing the same old thing over and over again and you're getting bored, that means you want to add something, not necessarily a whole bit of gear, but maybe doing something different about what you're doing. Okay, so anyway, I'm trying to narrate the thinking process as I'm showing you the stuff. So hopefully this is helpful. So this is now driving that. But like, if you listen to this, it's very lifeless, isn't it? It's very kind of. So what I thought was, well, hang on a minute. You've got velocity out of here and a pitch output of here as well, out of the DFAM. Okay. So what you can do is, this is how I had it initially. I can't remember which hole I put it in. I think it's that one. Let me just try. Yeah. Just turn it down a bit. So here you can see turn it down a bit. Yeah, all right. So here you can see that this line here, this line of dials here, is the pitch line, and this is the velocity line. So if I turn this down, this is now, all the pitches are down, and it's sending that CV signal to the VCA CV. Yeah, so basically, in other words, it's making it shorter for the non-technical like me around it, right? So I can now go. All right. Yeah. So already we've got this kind of dynamic. Yeah. And then if we had a bit of swing with the multi-clock, we can go, I'll turn it up a bit. And you can do it on the fly as well. So you can, you know, you can start to be like a drummer. And then you take out and let's add in the second VCO of the. So now we're starting to get a bit of a. Yeah, and then you can turn up the decay on here and have a bit of a build. Yep. So simply, oh, this is the problem. Yep. So simply by, at the moment, what's happening is that the ERM is triggering the DFAM, and I've got the trigger out of the so whenever one of these is hit, yeah, it goes into the gate of the Model 32, so it tells it to play, and then I've got the this pitch sequencer here into the VCA CV. Yeah, which is basically something to do with the volume. So actually not technical. Basically, what I do is I just plug it in and see what happens. so yeah, and then basically, so I can now control the what the hats are doing based upon this line here. And what's even cooler is if this switch here, yeah, this now. So when this switch here is switched down, this pitch sequencer also controls the pitch of the second VCO here. So let's just show you that. Yeah, so if I put them all up high, I'll just turn up there. I've got it, something else making it go. There you go. There you go. Yeah, because basically now that is. Yeah, so this is now controlling that. Yeah. So in other words, what ends up happening, because this, the way I've got it set up at the moment, this is controlling the pitch of the second this, and also the length of the hat. Yeah. So what is that? What's that like? What's that similar to? That's similar to a band playing with each other and responding to each other. That's kind of what it's like in my head. So I try and include as much of that in how I've got it set up as well. It's almost like you turn one knob over here and it actually controls the whole band. That's something else, a way of thinking about what I'm doing that I'm trying to kind of include, in what I'm doing. Okay, so that's how I had it set up in the first instance, and essentially, I mean, you can do other things as well. So I'll show you this too. Sometimes I have it set up like this, so that because the Subharmonicon has got two sequences, number 1 and number 2, yeah, and this is the sequencer 2 whole out, sequencer 2 out, and what I can do is I can actually plug that into the VCO2 of the DFAM hole. So now, whatever the sequencer 2 is playing, it will tell the VCO2 to play that same thing. So I can actually, let's see if I can actually do it right now. Let's turn that down. All right, so this is sequencer 2 playing VCO2. Actually, no, there we go. Right, so there you go. So these dials, yeah, are playing this, yeah. But because I've got this plugged out into VCO2 here, let's see what that does. I'll turn off so I've now turned off this pitch line here. So let's have a listen. What's going on? Oh, this way. Yeah, so you can see that basically you can also do that. You can have this telling that to play certain things. And then if you combine actually this pitch thing, yeah, so if I turn that on now, yeah, with it telling it to play that pitch thing, you get all sorts of strange and wonderful situations, right? Yeah. Oop. So yeah, the way that so the model that I think about is like, well, how can I get it so these things are actually interacting with each other? So if I change one thing, it not only changes that, but it changes the other. Yeah. So essentially, that was how I had it set up before. The only additional thing I added, probably a few weeks in, was the BeatStep, because the BeatStep wasn't being used at all at one point, right? So like the first few performances that I did, it was just that with me playing over the top, me playing the piano, and this sound. Hang on. Hello? Oh, that's fine. Yeah. And this sound over the top. Yeah, and that was it. Nothing else. So in other words, the only sequences that I was using were the Moog ones. Yeah. And then the first thing I did to add the BeatStep, and bear in mind, this like again, adding one thing at a time, just one tiny little thing at a time, I was lacking the ability to have a snare drum in there, some kind of, yeah. Okay. Now I could theoretically, in fact, let's just do it. Let's just do it right now. See if I can do it. So I could theoretically do it with just the with the Moogs. Where are we? Yeah. Okay. Which is what? Which is what? What? I can't remember what it is. Oh yeah. Okay. So if I put, yeah, so this is where it gets a bit confusing, right? But essentially, instead of putting that straight into that hole here, this is the pitch one. Yeah, I can put this into this mult, and what a mult is, it basically splits the signal. Okay, this is what's cool about the Mother 32 actually, is that it's got loads of things in it that if you were doing modular, you'd have to buy a module for, right? So it's got a mult in it, and it's got a mixer in it as well, which you can use. Okay, so you can turn things up and down. Turn the signal up and down. So basically, if I go pitch out into this mult, now I've got two of those signals. Yeah. So I can put one into the one that we had before. Yeah. And then the other thing I can do, I need a longer lead. The other thing I can do is just get a lead, a nice blue one. All right. And let's take this mult out there and let's put it into noise level. Okay. Now, this might, the problem is with this is that now the snare drum is always going to be playing kind of the same thing as the hi-hat. Okay, but let's see if I can make it work. Hang on. Yeah. There you go. So turn down the effects. So you can see you kind of got something going on there. And if I turn the effect. Right, so now, because I've turned on a filter on the Model 32, you are getting that kind of separation between hat and snare. Yeah? What am I doing? What am I doing? There we go. Yeah. So again, just to like really like drive this point home, when I needed a snare drum, I didn't go, oh well, what should I buy? I need a snare drum module. I was like, how can I get a snare drum out of this? Yeah. That is always the first question you ask yourself. If you want to make the maximum, of course, if you want to make the maximum progress in the minimum amount of time and have the most fun doing it and get addicted to it, that's the question you will ask over and over again. How do I get what I need, what I want out of this? Not, how do I get something over here, which is the solve the problem? Yeah, because it won't solve the. I mean, it will solve the problem a few years away once you've kind of, assimilated the information in order to be able to use it. Yeah. The other benefit of doing it this way is that you start to get a real sound. Yeah. So. Okay. So yeah, so at the moment, Robin, there's no effects on anything. Yeah. Rob's saying, have you tried all through MIDI or has the Moogs just got CV? Well, no. So DFAM doesn't have MIDI. The Subharmonicon does, and the Model 32 does, but I don't use it. Not because I'm anti-MIDI. I'm not an anti-MIDI person. MIDI-less. It's like this whole DAWless thing. It's a bit ridiculous, really, in a way. I mean, I use the word because it's what people are interested in. So I use the word in order to attract people who are interested in it because I think I can help them. But yeah, it's not that I've got a thing against MIDI. It's just the thing about MIDI. The reason why don't I use MIDI to record in? It's because I'm encouraging myself. Like I need a motivation to get better at practicing and being able to play. Because like I've got this kind of personal goal. In fact, I'm already there. That's what I'm actually doing. Is to not actually have to edit. Is to be able just literally to play, and it be a thing. Yeah. And the trouble is with MIDI is it creates a. No, it's not the trouble with MIDI. MIDI's great. The thing what I found myself doing when using MIDI, yeah, that's what I actually mean. I don't mean the trouble with MIDI. What I found myself doing when using MIDI was not practicing because I didn't have to, because I could edit it later. Yeah. Now, because I'm using audio, I mean, I don't want to go in and have to edit these bloody audio files. I could do that and like comp and all that kind of stuff. I just want to be able to play really well. Yeah. So I tend not to use MIDI. The other thing about MIDI is like I mean, the question you're asking, have you tried all through MIDI? Why would I try that when I don't need to? A lot of the questions you're asking, Rob, are are demonstrating to me where some of your own obstacles might be. It may well, I don't know whether this is just true or not, but it may well be that you find yourself trying lots of different types of ways of doing things in order to try them. That is not because you just want to try, you want to see what, you want to try them. That's almost like the opposite way around to the way that I do things, which is I don't try something just to try it. Yeah. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried the other? No, I have a goal and then I find a way to do that. Yeah. Which is different to trying all of these different things. Yeah. And I'm not sure if you do that. I'm sorry. I apologize if you don't do that and I'm wrong, but yeah, I'll bet you do end up trying lots of different things or have done in the past and don't actually end up doing the thing. That may well be the case. I don't know. So yeah, no, I haven't tried. Why would I? I don't need to. Yeah. In terms of the actual MIDI, playing the MIDI on the piano, but that's the reason I don't do that is because I found myself not getting good enough because I could just edit the MIDI and then I would quantize it and then it would lose the feel and blah, blah, blah. So I just, and that means wrong notes and you often hear me playing. All right. So coming back to this. So yeah, snare drum. So as you can see, we've got some kind of a snare drum situation going on at the moment here. And the hi-hat. Which is pretty good, isn't it? I mean, that's not bad. Oh, yeah, and that was the other thing I just wanted to mention at this point. So it doesn't sound like a lot, I mean, it sounds very what it is. Yeah, and I think a lot of people in this situation goes, well, it doesn't sound like the kind of EDM that I like or something. It doesn't sound like insert my favorite artist. But for me, that's actually a really good thing because it's like, it sounds like something. Yeah, it sounds like me finding a way to make this kind of a beat using this equipment, which then makes it sound like it, not like what's already out there. Yeah. And, and I haven't spent absolutely ages. I mean, I could actually make it sound better than it does right now. Just randomly put this up. But I haven't spent absolutely ages trying to make it sound more like Skrillex or whoever, or more like Floating Points or more like John Hopkins. It's like I'm finding a way to do the thing that that I'm trying to do. And then, okay, so this is how it sounds. With doing it this way, how can it sound better? Not more like something else, but how can this sound better? Yeah, and again, that's a slightly different approach, I think, than a lot of people. I want to sound like my favorite artist. Yeah, I want to sound like me using this equipment. Yeah, again, a slight shift in the way that you think about things. Right, anyway. Okay, so coming back to the BeatStep. So again, I have managed to do a snare drum without any BeatStep. But one of the downsides to having everything play everything else is that when everything plays everything else, there are certain things that you can't do. And I found myself wanting to have like that a little extra thing in there over and over again and not being able to do it easily. Because if I change this knob, then that changes too many things. So I was like, okay, so I need, well, I don't need, but what I'm going to try is having the BeatStep actually tell the snare drum to play. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so this was the first thing I did on the BeatStep, and literally for, I think it was over a month, this was the only thing that the BeatStep did. Literally the most expensive snare drum trigger you will ever find. so what it was, so on this drum sequencer here, so there are right, actually there's more. This drum sequencer has how many? 8, is it? Yeah, 8 different things that you can tell it's playing, and then it's got 2 sequences as well. All right. Rob just said this. and I just need to stop for a second. It sounds like you're punishing yourself in a good way to get perfection. So you use the P word, punishing. Punishing. How am I punishing myself? It's absolutely not. You're punishing yourself if you're not reducing the number of things that you're doing. That is punishment. And by the way, perfection is never a word I will ever use at all to describe anything, because it's not possible. Yeah. So number one, I'm not punishing myself. I think anybody who isn't limiting themselves is punishing themselves. Number two, I'm not trying to achieve perfection because it's not possible. So yeah, again, maybe some thoughts you want to have about how you're approaching this, because the words that you're using are giving me a picture of where you might be holding yourself up. So look, hence all my tracks are MIDI to edit at a further stage. That is punishing yourself. Okay. Right. Just think about that, Rob. Okay. Right. No, where are we? Okay. So coming over here. And by the way, Rob, I say all these things out of love and out of wanting to help. Yeah. So obviously it's. I hope you take it that way. Right. Okay. So let's. All right. So this drum thing here. If I've got this hole out of here. This is a CV hole, yeah, and so I'll do it just normally right now, and I plug this into the noise level of the DFAM here, and then also I've got the ERM telling the BeatStep to go forward, yeah, the multi-clock, yeah. So now I'll just turn it off, and so we've got the Moog, the DFAM. Telling the Mother 32 to play the hats, and we've got the BeatStep telling the noise of the DFAM to play. And at the moment, obviously, it's not playing anything. So let's just press play. So now, yeah. And also the cool thing about this is I can mute it as well like that, yeah. Because initially, when I was doing it for weeks, I was literally the only way that I was doing arrangements was just by. Initially, I didn't even have a mixer. I didn't use a mixer. I was literally doing everything just with the volume knobs here. Yeah. Because again, too much overwhelm. Okay. So, but one of the things that I found by doing it that way was that the snare drum was just always really loud. It was either on or off, and it was always really loud. Yeah. So, wait a minute, why is it not playing now? Oh, that's it. That's why. You always got to remember to set the DFAM at the last step, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay. So. So how are we going to sort out this snare drum being always too loud problem? Well, we can use the mixer in the Mother 32. All right, so let's do that now. So instead of going straight in out of the BeatStep into the noise hole, what a great place to be. Let's go into the mixer of the Mother 32 up here. So I'm going to put it into, so it's mix 1 and mix 2. Yeah. And essentially this knob fades. It's like a, like on a DJ mixer, it's like a, a fader between one and the other. So this is mix 1 full, this is mix 2 full. Yeah. So if you just plug this into mix 2, essentially this now becomes a volume knob for mix 2. Yeah. And then I've got this is the out of the mix 2. Now I put that into the noise hole. And lo and behold, hang on a minute. So this is volume down. Yeah, so now I can turn that up and down. Now, that's the way I had it. That's the way I had it running for absolutely ages and ages and ages, just like that. Yeah. Where the BeatStep was just playing a snare drum, and the mother was just playing a hat. Yeah, and I was really focused on playing the instruments better and being able to work all of this stuff a lot better. I'm gonna put that in there. So let's get to where I am now in terms of how I'm working it. And actually, I don't exactly know where I am now because I'm in the middle of figuring out. I'm doing a 5-hour set on my Sunday, which is probably most people's Saturday. And it's kind of like a 500 subscriber. Hopefully I get to 500 subscribers. Last time I looked, I was 494. So go ahead and subscribe because, if I don't get to 500, then I'm just not going to do it. And that will be really sad. No, I'm joking. I'll do it even if I'm at 499. Or even if I lose a load of subscribers as a result of this live stream, I'll still do it because I'm basically there. Okay, so I'm doing a 5-hour set, and it's like I have done 2-hour ones, but 5 hours. It's almost like I'm just wondering what a difference that will make to sort of how I'm thinking about it and what I'm doing and the kind of what I want to be able to do. And what I want to be careful of is not changing everything for this 5-hour set, which therefore makes the 5-hour set an absolute nightmare for me and awful, and 5 hours of sheer hell. Yeah. But I want to make sure also that through that 5 hours, I don't get totally sort of just, oh God, I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah. So that's basically why I'm in the middle of kind of figuring out, can I be shifting between the different ways I'm doing things? Because where I am now is this. So I'm using the BeatStep much more. Okay. So, where are we? Okay. So the BeatStep has got 2 sequencers as well as the drum sequencer. Okay. So what I have, and this is really about the Mother 32. Okay. And I've unplugged loads of things, so I can't even remember what I did. Hang on. What did I do? Yes. Okay. So let's talk about the DFAM first. All right. So actually, I don't think it is about the Mother 32. I think it's mainly about the DFAM. Right. So as I said before, I had this sequencer here telling the DFAM when to play. So when the velocity was up, so at the moment, this knob is up and this knob is up. And these ones are down, which is what it's giving it the... Hang on, it's not going to play properly, is it? Right. Yeah, so if I go... Which is cool. But what I can also do is I can actually get the BeatStep, because one of the things, and it's really funny when I see videos about the DFAM, or a lot of comments about the DFAM, people saying, "Oh, it's only 8 steps. What can I do with 8 steps? Oh no, it's not enough." And I'm like, great, it's only 8 steps. That's a limitation, and there's so much you can do with it just with these 8 steps. Yeah, and I actually appreciate that limitation in a lot of ways. And it's not only 8 steps, because you can actually extend the steps by doing various different things. So you can set the clock to something else. Yeah, but anyway. Eventually, I was like, well, it would be, while I appreciate the steps, and bear in mind, it was literally like 2.5 months of, I don't know, live streams almost every day. No, live streams every single day for 2.5 months using 8 steps on the DFAM. Yeah, so that's how many? That's like 70 something, like hour-long performances with 8 steps. So let's just let's just get past this whole idea that 8 steps isn't enough. Load of absolute nonsense. What, you know, if you think 8 steps isn't enough, then what isn't enough is your creativity. Yeah, you use your creativity to actually use those 8 steps. And instead of going, oh, I can't do this, and I get frustrated about it, go, well, what can I do with this? Yeah, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Yeah, and it's not a lemon. It's not punishing yourself. It's the opposite. Yeah, it's unlocking your creativity. And that, you know, this, I think you're kind of getting I'm banging on about this point, but it's so important. I get so frustrated when I see some people. The reason I get frustrated is that I want them to make more music. I want them to be happier, but they get frustrated. It's like they're getting frustrated because they think that limitations are stopping them. They're not. The limitations are actually there to help them move forward. Yeah. You know, again, Rob, the questions you're asking, this is very, very relevant for you. Okay. So, but having said that, that's not to say that for the rest of my life, I'm only going to use 8 steps because I am an 8-step purist. It's like, I will only use 8 steps because I am an 8-step, you know, I'm a 16-stepless person or anything like that. No, that's not it at all. It's just, at some point I was like, well, I've got this BeatStep and it's just playing a snare. It would be interesting to see what happens if I want to extend what this can do, because I'm now very, very, it's almost like I'm not even having to think about how to use this. So let's try something different. Let's mix it up a bit, you know? When I feel myself getting stale, when I feel myself kind of getting disengaged because I'm doing the same thing, getting disengaged in the performances when I'm doing the same thing, change something, just change one thing and see what happens, right? So this is when I added the BeatStep. And again, it's not that I'm always going to do it this way. As I said, ideally, what I'd like to be able to do is to move from one thing to another within a set. To have the DFAM sequencer sometimes and then the BeatStep, because there are upsides and downsides to every single thing that you do. There is no perfect workflow. There is no perfect setup. There are trade-offs in every single thing that you do. Yeah, and you've got to understand what the strengths of each way of doing things is in order to be able to do what do I want to do right now? What is the situation, the particular way of setting it up that is kind of most helpful, is going to help me be the most creative. Yeah. So coming back to the holes and the leads. Okay, so sequencer 2 has got 3 holes in the back. I'm using the second sequencer because it's closer. All right. So it's got 3 holes. It's got pitch, velocity, and gate. Yeah. And out of here, I thought, well, what's similar to pitch? Because I didn't want it actually. Oops. I've just knocked my camera. Let's check that. Yeah, I didn't want to actually affect the pitch of the main sort of VCO, but it would be cool to have a slightly, because let's just it would be cool to have a slightly different thing. So I put it into VCO decay. Now what VCO decay is this knob here. So it basically makes things go, like, for the non-technical amongst us, VCO decay on the DFAM makes things go pew. Okay, so essentially the decay is the length of time it takes to decay, and the VCO, it's like affecting the pitch, yeah, of the thing. So if I turn the and if you turn the VCO decay like to a certain amount, it just creates a bit of a click. Yeah, hear that? Is without. Bit more flabby. Yeah, but if you turn the VCO decay up, you can give it a bit of a bump. Yeah. But what's cool is if you can actually control that, yeah, whoops, with something else. Now I could do it with, I could do it with velocity, I suppose, but let's try it. But the trouble is with doing it with velocity is then it's making all of the loud notes go pew, which might not be what you want. So you could do it with pitch, but I've already got that going here. So I could decide to take it out of, I could decide to take it out of the hat or use this one. Let's just see what happens here. So yeah, like that. So here in relation to that, which is pretty cool, right? Which also, the good thing about doing it that way is that you now get the VCO2, the DFAM also doing the same thing too. So it's like a little chorus of boo. So, yeah, anyway, so I'm just getting a bit carried away. So, what I can do is instead of, that's actually quite good though. I might write this down because I might actually put that as the thing. I did have it like this for a while and I've forgotten how much fun it is. I've got to write this down somewhere. Why can't I write it down? 100%, yes, exactly. Yeah, so hang on. If I don't write it down, it's going to be a distracting thought in my head when I'm trying to do this. I'm like, don't forget that, don't forget that. All right, so I should write it down. All right, so pitch. All right. Yes. Yes, thank you. So, what you can do is you can set the pitch of this to the VCO decay. So, yep. And furthermore, what was it again? I wish they had these written on the top. I always forget. Yeah, so gate to the trigger. So now, whenever there's a signal from the, hang on a minute, sorry, I'll show you the things. Whenever there's a signal from the BeatStep, yeah, one of these lights is on, it will send a trigger signal to the DFAM here, yeah? And what trigger is it plays, yeah? But it's still the advance is still being clocked from the Subharmonicon, so it'll still keep going, moving forward. Yeah, but it will only play when there's a light. Sorry, I keep on forgetting to change. Yeah, so it will still be moving forward through the sequence. Yeah, but it will only play when a light is on here. Yeah. Okay. There are lots of different ways of doing this, but this is how I'm doing it right now, right? Great, isn't it? It's awesome. Sounds brilliant. There we go. Oh, it would probably be better if I shorten the sequence to make it clearer for you. And where are we? Last step. 16. Yeah. All right. So let's press play. What's going on? Nothing. So it's going round. What have I done? What have I done? And so this is where I lose my mind because I can't remember. So that going to there. This, what's that? What is that? It's pitch. It's pitch. So that's okay. Oh, hang on, wrong hole. There we go. Oh, Arturo, why, oh why didn't you put? There we are. This is it. Yeah. So that's basically velocity going into the velocity hole. Yeah. Oh, it's because we're not synced up. Again, the problem with the analog sequencer of the DFAM is you've got to make sure that when you start the sequence, it's on the previous step from the beginning. Yeah. Otherwise, you end up in weird situations. Okay. So there you go. So now, even though, because I've got the velocity out of the BeatStep plugged into the velocity hole of the DFAM, and the trigger hole of the DFAM, the gate hole of the DFAM plugged into the trigger hole of the DFAM, no matter what I do here with the velocity on this sequencer, it will still play, right? So if I go over to the BeatStep, I can go. Yep. Let's just turn the snare for now. Yeah. Okay. So now the velocity on here I can use for something else, which is cool. Yep. So let's talk about the pitch. So this is the pitch hole of the BeatStep. This. Okay. I'm going to put it into the VCO decay hole. The BEW hole. Let's call it the BEW hole. Yeah. So if we go over to the BeatStep, I can now control. So each of these knobs, depending on what you've got set here, it controls something different, right? So look, here you can see 9. Hang on, no. What's going on? That makes sense. Oh, I see. So if I go. So I'm turning the note up here. You probably can't see that, sorry. So I'm turning the note up. It's now on C6, so it's going pew that whenever it hits that note, yeah? That's that note, yeah? Or I can turn it down. Yeah. Okay. So what that now means is I can actually create kind of bass lines, sort of techie type bass lines. Let's check this out. Oop. All right. So if I already got this set, I probably have. Yeah. So basically, step 3, 7, 11, and 15, I've got tuned up. Yeah. Okay. So let's hear what that sounds like. Tuned up, so it's making it go more pew. Yeah. The other thing that I've got, just to be clear, is I've got the velocity of 3, 7, 11, and 15 lower than 1, you know, rather than the kicks. Yeah. So this is what happens then. Yeah. Yeah, because I've got the BEW hole making it go. Yeah, and I can make it go up and down. Yeah, which gives you all kinds of options and possibilities. Yeah. So essentially, that's how I've got the BeatStep controlling the DFAM right now. Now, one downside of that is that what I found is, because you can save things on the BeatStep, it's actually discouraged me, which is something about DAWless that you really want to bear in mind. It like any particular decision you make about how you do something, it affects, I mean, obviously it affects what you do, but it kind of almost like entrenches you. It can entrench you in that way of doing things. So because I can save patterns on the BeatStep, and so on the BeatStep, I think I've got 4 patterns saved. I've got for the kick, you know, for the DFAM kick. Yeah, I've got what's going on? Oh yeah, it needs to play in order to find it. Hang on. So number 1 is just a straight kick drum. Yeah. And then number 2 is the one I think I just played you. Yeah. And then number 3 is more of a kind of let's put a bit of swing on that. Yeah. Number 3 is like a dunk da gunk dunk dunk da gunk gunk thing. Yeah. And then number 4 is more of a breaky one, I think. Let's put this snare in for this. Yeah. So I've got these 4, you know, these 4 patterns, and what I've been doing is, as more patterns come up in the live thing, I've been saving some of them. What I've found, which is an unfortunate result of it, and it's almost like how the human brain seems to work, is that when I'm performing, this is actually like contracted the a lot of the sort of more interesting things I'm doing with the rhythm. I tend to be defaulting to these patterns, which I'm finding quite frustrating. So the problem that I'm actually trying to solve at the moment is, how do I mean, it's funny because there's almost like there's a trade-off. There's always a trade-off. So the overall quality in terms of things being not all over the place has been better as a result of doing that, right? But the exciting things that happen with the rhythm, there's been less of them. It's just been more of like a drum machine. And I feel like I'm not taking advantage of what the DFAM and what I love about it by, you know, using the BeatStep like that. So as I said, what I'd like to be able to do, and I'm going to stop this in a second because I've got to start my actual performance. There's a link in the description, by the way. And if there isn't a link in the description, then go to the front page of the channel, because you probably came on and were waiting before I actually put the link in the description. And also consider coming to the 500 subscribers 5-hour set on my Sunday, probably your Saturday if you're not in Australia or New Zealand. Anyway, so, and also subscribe to the channel. That would be really helpful. And like this if you found this useful, because if you do like it, I will do more of this and be showing you exactly how I'm doing it and how I'm thinking about it and where I'm at and how I've got it set up. And, you know, I can even show you some of the ways that I've been, you know, compression ratios and stuff like that as well if you want. So anyway, but the coming back to the point, the trade-off has been that by using the BeatStep in that way, which is more DAW-y, let's face it, you know, just because it's not in the bloody computer, it's basically a DAW. I mean, I know it isn't, but it kind of is. I mean, what is a DAW? Yeah, it's like, you know, because I'm sure some people will go, well, you are using a DAW because you're using that. A DAW's something in a computer. Well, actually, no, to me, a DAW is much more actually programming things, yeah, like for instance, the BeatStep. And I don't want to get into an argument. What I'm basically saying is that this is a lot less open and free than the analog sequencer of the Moog. And one of the problems with it is that you can save things. So this is actually giving me a thought as I'm talking about. Maybe my process wants to be that I'm not allowed to save any patches on the BeatStep, because maybe that would solve the problem. I'm not going to do that for my next live stream, but maybe that would kind of help. Because my thinking was, well, if I have some bass patterns already done, then that's going to save time, and I can just use the empty patterns to create stuff. But it's just I don't end up doing that very much. Yeah. So I've you know, what I want to do is find a place where I retain the excitement and happy accidents and craziness and creativity of using the sequencer in the DFAM. And, you know, there are some ways of doing that. So, for instance, I don't have to have everything being controlled by the BeatStep. I can just have certain things being controlled by the BeatStep and not all of it. Yeah. So, you know, I basically want to find a way of being able to have the best of both worlds. And that might mean in certain situations, you know, being able to unplug things in the middle of a performance and plug them in a different way, or which I'm not going to do at the moment because that'll be too overwhelming. Again, always thinking about what is going to be overwhelming and what is going to be easier. Yeah. Another way of doing it is to kind of mix it up performance by performance. So I'm going to do it this way for this performance. I'm going to do it that way for another performance, which is it's a different way of chunking the same thing. So instead of changing it mid-performance, I will be changing it between performances, and not in order to find what's best, right? Because there isn't a best. There's upsides and downsides, but in order to in order to sort of practice it all, stay fresh, do something different, not get kind of locked into the same old. And another way of doing it is to not have everything. It's like to have the BeatStep controlling the DFAM just in certain ways. So yeah. So anyway, there's a bunch of questions that I've got here. Let me see if I can just get through a few of them. Okay, so Max says, where is the audio of all the instruments you use routed? Into a desk, then audio interface, or straight into the audio interface? No, it goes straight into the audio interface through the console, the UAD console, through those plugins there, and then through these things here. And then basically I use MIDI in order to what's the word? Volume. Yeah. Rob, if you make mistakes playing your piano in a splurge, then go back to a few days later, do you record the full piano back or just overdub the mistakes? What I would probably do, sometimes I leave the mistakes because the mistakes are the best thing about it. I would probably just replay the piano, or often there will be, because of the volume of music that I'm creating, there will be something else that doesn't have those mistakes and that is just kind of more fully formed. So often I'll just do that. I'm not particularly attached to any idea that I have. Mike, are you concerned with recording MIDI note input when splurging for future arranging, sequencing, recording, or just record audio, move on? The second, record audio and move on. I'm not concerned with MIDI. I've answered that. How do you not let the editor in to keep going? You do let the editor in, you just don't, sometimes you just don't pay attention. You just go, okay, I'll come back to you later. And the editor is really, really helpful. It's not about pushing the editor out. It's just about going, look, I'll come back to you later. You've got some good information, but now's not the time, Mr. Editor. Let's just keep moving forward. That's a have you tried question from Rob. Okay, I've done that one. Vignesh, have not noticed you using arpeggios in your sessions. Any plans of using this versatile musical structure in your future sessions? And would the Modular 32 be useful for this? I can see that you want me to do that, Vignesh, because it's a versatile musical, I wouldn't call it a structure, I would probably call it a technique. Arguably, the Subharmonicon is a kind of arpeggio, it can be. I'm into arpeggiators, but it's just like, at this point, I don't need to. I have thought about using the Mother 32 to do that. And also there's an arpeggiator in the BeatStep as well. I've actually got that on a list. So I may well not. It's almost like at this point, because the Subharmonicon is filling that. Okay, so here's another thing to think, like another way of thinking about your setup and your music. Arpeggiators fulfill a certain musical function. Yeah. And what is a musical function? Well, like a texture, a vibe. It can mean all kinds of things. So an arpeggiator does a particular kind of thing. Yeah, so it's almost like repetitive broken chords, let's say. Yeah, so and it does. I mean, you know, there are other things it does. But let's just say that just as a way of thinking about this. The Subharmonicon also does repetitive notes, which can be like broken chords. So it's almost like, is that the highest leverage thing for me to try right now? By highest leverage, I mean maximum result for minimum effort. Well, it may well be a good thing to do. Yeah, I love arpeggiators. Yeah, but it's not the highest leverage thing for me to focus on right now. So it's not at the top of my list. Yeah, because I'm always thinking about what's the thing that will make the biggest difference in terms of progress and in my music right now. And because I'm using the Subharmonicon as such a fundamental part of it, which I know it's not an arpeggiator, but it can be like an arpeggiator, repetitive notes. It's almost like, well, it's kind of too similar. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do it in the future. I may well. In fact, I'm sure I will. Otteron, how was your transition to DAWless, and what were some of your initial challenges? Any tips for anyone working towards going DAWless? Well, so first of all, I don't think of myself as having gone DAWless. That's the first thing. It's almost like, I'm DAWless. I hate DAW. Yeah, it's like there's something fundamentally like wrong-headed about that way of thinking about it. What is it that you want to be able to do? And it's like, I'm not a DAWless purist. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm not an analog purist. I'm not a hardware purist. I'm not a software purist. I'm not any of those things. I'm a musician who has a set of tools available to me to make music. I want to have whatever situation is going to bring me the most joy and allow me to be the most creative. One of those things means limiting myself probably way more than than a lot of people think is useful. Yeah. That's because I believe that's where you are. I mean, I know, in fact, I don't believe it. I know it. It's that's where we are most creative. When we are limited, we are forced to be more creative. Yeah. Now, the reason that DAWless, and I do use the word DAWless because that's what everyone else calls it. Just like I use the word music production rather than music making or music composition, because that's what everyone else says. But it's not music production, it's making music. It's not DAWless, it's using certain tools and at this point not choosing to use others, right? So yeah, the reason that I'm doing it the way I'm doing it is because I identified that one of my strengths is discovery, is being able to hear things in things. And I wanted to get off the grid because I recognized that one of my weaknesses was constantly second guessing myself. And, coming back to what Rob was saying, is like just later on in the process, overcomplicating things, trying to make things perfect. I'm a terrible perfectionist. When you do it like this, you can't be a perfectionist. It's just not available to you. You are limiting yourself. Yeah. Now, the problem, you're limiting yourself because you can't edit. The reason I love these, one of the main reasons I love these is because you cannot save. One of the reasons I hate this, I don't hate it. I love you. It's okay. Shh, calm. I don't hate you. I love you. Yeah, it's okay. So one of the reasons I don't like this is because you can save. Yeah. And so it's almost like that. It doesn't allow you to, it's like you do it and then it's gone. Yeah. So there is that limitation that allows you to be more creative. But one of the dangers of not, I would call it not assembling your music, more playing it, is that there are so many different ways that you can do it. I've only just scratched the surface with what I've gone through today. There's so many different ways that you can do it. That it's actually, there are so many different options that it just gets extremely overwhelming, and you end up trying to chase this thing that you can't get. Yeah, you're just trying to chase something that isn't available to you. Yeah. So what I would say is, don't think about it as going DAWless. Think about it as like, well, what can I not do with the way I'm doing it now that I would like to be able to do? Yeah, don't become a DAWless or hardware or analog, whatever, purist, because it's ridiculous. It's fun. It's really ridiculous. You can choose to do whatever it is you want to do, and there are certain tools and certain ways of doing it that are going to work better, and there are other ways of doing it which are going to work worse. And you're going to love certain things about one way of doing it, and love other things about another way of doing it. So yeah, but limit yourself. Do as little as possible. A really good start, I think, I'm biased, but a really good start would be to get the Moog Sound Studio thing. Personally, if it was me, and this is a personal opinion because of the discovery thing I was talking about, I would definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, and I'm sure people would disagree with me, but that's because they're different, I would go for the DFAM and the Subharmonicon. That's a personal opinion. Yeah, just because it's all about discovery. But if you do that, recognize that with the Subharmonicon, you are not going to be able to hear something in your head and make it happen for a long time. Yeah. Whereas with the Mother 32, it's easier to do that. Okay. Paul says, I'm interested in how I think about multi-tracking. Not quite sure what you mean by multi-tracking. But I will just answer how I record the parts in quickly. And then I've got to go to get ready for the stream, the actual thing. And I've messed all this up now. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, okay. So in recording in my stuff, because I mean, initially with the first few things that I did, I only had the stereo recording. But now I've got different things being recorded in over here. So I've got the main out, obviously. Yeah. So that's being recorded in. So that's the actual performance down here. Then I've got the static effects, and I haven't really talked about the performable effects versus the static effects, but I think I talked about that in another stream, but I can do that in another a future one. So these are the static effects being recorded in here. Now everything can be sent to the static effects. Here are the static effects: Supermassive, Lexicon 224, Chambers, RMX16, and Echo Boy. That was something I'm testing. I'm not using it. Yeah, this all goes into one mixer here, and then it just gets fed out here. So I've got all of those effects together recorded as a stereo file. Yeah, so we've got the recording itself, the stereo file. Then I've got the Subharmonicon through the performable effects. Yeah, so it's a stereo thing here, going in here. I've got the DFAM through these effects here. Yeah, and that is actually mono. I've made it mono. So that's actually that, so this will actually be recordings of the performance of me twiddling the knobs in order to do the tornado stuff and stuff like that. Yeah. And then same thing with the Model 32. And bear in mind also that automatically the dry Subharmonicon, DFAM, and Model 32 are also being recorded at the same time. So essentially, at the end of the day, aside from the stereo out, yeah, the actual recording of the performance, I've got 1, 2, 3 stereo files, static effects, the Subharmonicon effects, through the performable effects, and the Model 32 through the performable effects. I've got the DFAM mono through the performable effects, and then I've got, oh yeah, also I've got the live instruments somewhere. Actually, where have they gone? Sometimes this happens where final mix. Oh no, it's because they're going straight in. That's right. Yeah. Then I've got the live instruments dry going straight into the Apollo. Yeah. And then I've got the single Subharmonicon mono, DFAM mono dry, and the Model 32 dry going into the mixer. And this is the left and the right of the live instruments. Okay. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 mono files and 1, 2, 3, 4 stereo files, and that is basically all of the tracks that I have to play with when I'm mixing and mastering the thing. Yeah, and in the future, when I choose to make little tracks of the performances, so I'll pull out a bit and make a track of it, I'll have those files to play with, and maybe I will do a bit of stuff in a DAW. So in order to do that, DAWs are great. You know, let's just calm down. Often people want to go DAWless, I think, because they believe that it's the solution to their problem and it's the fault of the DAW. No, it's not. It's because of the way that you're using the DAW. It's because of the way you're using your mind. That's why you can't. And you're going to have a different kind of a problem when you go DAWless. It's a potential solution, but actually the number one solution is figuring out how your human mind is getting overwhelmed and blocked and too many options and not being creative because you're trying to do too much at once. So that was fun for me. Hopefully it was useful for you. So it was a bit all over the place, and hopefully I've given you an insight really into how I think about what to think about more than exactly what I do. I mean, of course, exactly what I do hopefully will give you some ideas as well. But really, just to hammer this home finally, the main point is you can take on much less new stuff than you think you can. Yeah. And if you overwhelm yourself, you're going to get disengaged and bored, and you're going to have to start doing things like motivating yourself and using discipline. If you want to get into that addiction zone, you'll reduce the number of things that you are doing, yeah, and you will focus on them obsessively and getting really good at them, because that will put you into a situation where you can actually make progress, which is addictive in itself. So do more with less is the upshot of all that. So I'm going to try and do more with less right now on the actual performance. I think I'm meant to be starting in 5 minutes, so we'll see how that goes. So yeah, either click the link in the description or go to the front page of the channel to go over there. And I'm doing the 5-hour set for 500 subscribers on my Sunday, most people's Saturday. So it'd be great to see you at some point for that. You don't need to be here for the whole 5 hours. It would be great to see you here for that. So until then, and of course, up until then, I'll be live streaming a performance every day as well. So until then, be great to hang out, onwards and upwards.